We're in Studio 11B with Republican candidate for mayor of New York, Assemblywoman Nicole Malliotakis. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
First question, why did you decide to take the leap and run for mayor?
You know, I couldn't stand by anymore while the city that I love saw a deterioration in the quality of life. I'm the daughter of immigrants. My parents came to the United States, came to New York City because it was a beacon of hope and opportunity. It's becoming increasingly more difficult for people to achieve the American dream, to be able to purchase a home, to be able to even rent an apartment here in the city of New York. It's becoming not only increasingly unaffordable, but even more challenging to start a business, to really seek what so many over the years have done, and that is the American dream. And I feel that not only is it that issue of the affordability and the difficulty, but it's also an issue of the quality of life deteriorating. We have a transit crisis, we have a homeless crisis, we have children that continue to fail in our public school system, and these are the basic issues that need to be addressed by a mayor, and we don't have a mayor that's really managing the city or these problems.
We're going to get into a lot of those questions, but I want to ask you about an issue that I know you're going to be focusing on today. The mayor was asked several times last night what his opinion is about the statue of Christopher Columbus at Columbus Circle, and he didn't answer it. He said his personal opinion is not important. What is your opinion on that?
Well, you know, I think it's outrageous, first of all, that the mayor would even say that. He knows that the people of New York City want to know where he stands on that issue and many others. That's why we're going through this process right now of having these open discussions to be transparent, let people know our views, our proposals, and our plans. But the fact that it's taking him weeks just to say whether he believes that the Christopher Columbus statue should stay or be taken down is completely outrageous. I support keeping the statue. I think he's a bad Italian. He should change his name back to Wilhelm.
Why do you support it, considering the points that everyone has made about, or the people who support it being taken down have made about Christopher Columbus's history?
Well, you know, Christopher Columbus is a part of our history, and he is an explorer. He's revered by the Italian American community. He represents really the voyage of Italian American immigrants, and I don't see. I think we're making a controversy out of something that's not there. You know, the governor supports keeping the statue. Elected officials across the city support it. Italian American organizations have come out in support of this. This is not even an issue that should be a priority right now when we have so many other issues that are plaguing our nation. We have a 39% increase in street population for homelessness. We have children where 60% of them are failing our math exams annually. We have 80% of our children going into a city university system in which they have to take remedial math, writing, and reading. And we have a transit crisis with 70,000 delays a month. I mean, those are the issues that we should really be talking about, and this has all been a distraction because the mayor felt that we needed, you know, this commission, which I don't think is necessary.
You mentioned you're the daughter of immigrants, Greek and Cuban, who met here in New York City. What do you make of the news this week about the president deciding to end DACA? Obviously, a lot of views about immigration in your party, the Republican Party, starting with the president. How do you navigate that?
You know, I'm concerned about ending DACA without having a permanent solution. DACA is there as a Band-Aid, right? This was the prior president, and even when the Democrats controlled all three, the Congress, the Senate, and the presidency, they were unable and unwilling to do something about streamlining our immigration process. So DACA was there as a Band-Aid. I think that, you know, it is set to expire, but we have to use this opportunity to fix a broken immigration system. And I urge my colleagues from my party to do what's right and streamline a broken immigration system, which for 30 years has caught people in red tape who have wanted to become immigrants. Again, you know, my parents came to this country to achieve a better life, and they did. They were able to achieve the American dream, start a small business in Brooklyn, own a home in Staten Island, and we have to provide that for future generations. These young people deserve a pathway to citizenship, and I hope that they do. This is an opportunity for the Republican Party to really be the ones that come up with that pathway to citizenship, and I hope it gets done.
In the meantime, you know, if indeed that happens, there's going to be this period where lots of people in this city are fearful of what might happen. What do you say to those people?
Yeah, well, that's why I think it was what the president did was roll it out poorly. I disagree with looking to retroactively strip anyone of their status. What I do believe is that we need to work collectively to lobby Washington. If I'm elected mayor, I'm going to be lobbying my fellow Republicans in Washington to fix what has been a broken system. Again, DACA is a Band-Aid. It's not a long-term solution. We have an opportunity now to put together a long-term solution and have a pathway to citizenship, and shouldn't just be for these young people. That should be the start. But we need to streamline the process overall. We can protect our borders, streamline the process, create a visa entry exit system, but we need to fix what has become basically red tape, where people are getting stuck for decades in a system, spending thousands of dollars on attorney's fees and getting nowhere because of the bureaucracy in Washington.
You filed a lawsuit to stop the city from destroying the records from the ID card program that the mayor said was to prevent those records from getting into the hands of the federal government. Why did you do that? And can you clarify your position on protecting undocumented immigrants here in New York?
Yeah, so my lawsuit has nothing to do with immigration. If you read the lawsuit, in fact, it doesn't even mention the words really immigration in there. My lawsuit is about giving 1 million identification cards to individuals, whether they're citizens, whether they're legal residents, whether they're here illegally, and not keeping the paperwork, so we don't know who we gave them to. You have to remember that this ID card gives you access to public schools, to city buildings, to open up a bank account, and so we should be concerned that people can walk into a city building with this ID card, and if something were to happen, or if they were to look to perpetuate a crime, then we would see the that there's no way to backtrack to see how they obtained that. And by the way, the ID card program accepts foreign expired passports, which are non-machine readable. And in a post-9/11 world, I don't think that's a smart thing to be doing. And in fact, the 9/11 Commission had warned against issuing ID cards without having stringent criteria. So that's why we have this lawsuit.
So you don't have the same level of concern about that data being used by the federal government to come in and deport people?
Well, the data's been sitting there for months, and no one's requested it. So I don't think that is a real concern. Look, if I'm the mayor, we're going to make sure that we deal with the federal government if something like that were to happen. And we will work with Washington. And I also believe that we need to work with Washington when it comes to one of the issues I have with this mayor is that we've always sort of had a sanctuary type policy in the city of New York. Going back to Ed Koch, every mayor since then has had an executive order in which we're not turning over the identity of individuals. What this mayor has done now is taken it to an all new level, which is dangerous. He's protecting individuals who, if they've committed sex abuse, grand larceny, patronizing a child for prostitution, identity theft, welfare fraud, drunk driving. I mean, these are serious crimes where there are victims and they could destroy someone's life. And yet we're just going to protect those individuals and not comply with federal detainer requests so they can continue to commit crimes against other immigrants and citizens. I think that's wrong. I will do what every mayor up until this mayor has done, and we will continue to protect those who come forward to report a crime and uphold those executive orders that every mayor has had and has been expanded by Michael Bloomberg. But we're not going to protect those individuals that have committed crimes as the ones I've mentioned.
I want to ask you a question that was asked at the Democratic debate last night. Do you support the idea of a policy whereby it would have to be disclosed to the public if somebody asks the mayor for something and that person has donated money to the mayor's campaign? Essentially, if a donor asks the mayor something, the public has to know about it. Do you support something like that?
Well, I actually proposed it. I actually am the one that said not only should we prohibit lobbyists from bundling money for a mayor or any elected officials, but I've also said that they should be forced to disclose who they're lobbying about a particular project. So it's my idea, so I do support it. I think it's great.
You've seen over the past few years what it looks like when a mayor and a governor don't get along. You've been in Albany as an assembly member for several years now. How would your relationship with the legislature and with the governor be different, and how would that affect the governing of the city?
Well, look, I'm a minority in an overwhelmingly a Democratic assembly. I've had the ability to work across the party line. I respect many of my colleagues in the legislature, and I've been able to show that I can work across party line to get transparency measures accomplished. I was one of the leaders in the fight as well to restore bus service to my district in recovery from Hurricane Sandy, is where I worked with Governor Cuomo most, because my district was devastated, and we had mutual constituents that really needed help. The mayor has shown that he has an inability to not only work with the Republicans in Washington, but he can't work with the governor of his own party. And as a result, the people of New York City suffer. The mayor needs to be diplomatic. Yes, when you disagree vehemently. And when you support, you have to throw your support and help as much as possible to make good policies happen. However, he has been, I think, disrespectful to both Washington and Albany, and as a result, we're suffering. We're not getting the resources that we need, and he's not being actively advocating for things. You know, if he wants to see immigration reform, he should be in Washington lobbying for it. That's what I would be doing as mayor, to make sure that we're fixing a broken system. That would be more. That would do so much more to help these individuals that are living in the shadows of society than by providing them an ID card that has limited use. Let's provide a pathway for them to become citizens of our beautiful city.
Speaking of fixing a broken system, the governor wants the mayor to pay for half of the subway repair plan. The mayor so far has resisted doing that and proposed a tax on the rich instead. What would you do?
Well, last night's debate, he basically said that it could happen after 2018 if we elect a Democratic Senate in Albany. But I mean, are people really supposed to wait till 2019 to see a millionaire's tax possibly or possibly not get passed, and then maybe the money's going to come in 2020? This is a subway system that is in a crisis. We have 70,000 delays a month. People want it fixed. And the mayor has the money to go split 50-50 for the emergency repairs with the governor. He has 4 members of the MTA board, and he should be putting in the money. I mean, this is a subway system through your entire city. You had dozens of citizens that were injured in recent train derailments. He has to come forward. I will work with Governor Cuomo. If I was the mayor today, I'd be on the phone with the governor and Joe Lota, chairman of the MTA. How can I help to let's accomplish this? Let's do the immediate fixes, and then let's develop a long-term solution to get adequate funding so the MTA has reliable funding stream.
So you don't think that based on principle and precedent of the past 40 years, the state should be the one primarily responsible for fixing the subway?
You know what? The state is kicking in the majority of the money. For the emergency plan, they're asking us to meet them halfway, but they're always going to kick in the majority of the money. We need to put in something, and we need to do it because we're in a crisis situation. For me, there really is no question about it. The mayor of the city of New York needs to work with the governor to fix the most important transportation option in the city. And if we don't have a reliable subway system, it affects employment, it affects people's livelihoods, it affects transferring goods, moving people, and that to me is more critical than anything. I mean, this is a mayor who's increased the city budget by $15 billion over what Mayor Bloomberg was spending 3.5 years ago, and yet now when it's coming to the number one issue plaguing the city, he's crying poverty. It makes no sense at all, and his priorities, quite frankly, are backwards.
Congestion pricing, good solution or not?
I think it should be on the table. It should be on the table as an option. I have concerns about tolling, obviously, because I represent Brooklyn and Staten Island, which has the most expensive one-way toll in the nation. If we can make sure that there's a cap, it's something that I would be open to discussing. But certainly what is happening now cannot continue to happen. We have a broken subway system. We have a traffic nightmare every day. There's too many vehicles on the road. We need to expand and use our waterways more to get vehicles off the street. We need to add additional transit options on the eastern part of Queens, the northern part of the Bronx, the southernmost part of Staten Island, and of course in Brooklyn as well. But the bottom line is that we can't do that if we don't have funding, and Sam Schwartz's plan would provide a more reliable funding stream, so it should be on the table. I'm disappointed that the mayor says no automatically without even looking at it. I'm sure he didn't even read it. But at least it should be an option, and that the governor's for it is, I think, a good opportunity now politically to maybe see if we can get some changes accomplished.
You voted in 2011 against same-sex marriage. You've come out recently and said you regretted that vote. Your view on it has evolved. Some people might look at that and say, well, she's running for mayor now.
Yeah.
How do you respond to that?
Well, it's a no-win situation. So the conservatives are upset with me because I say that my opinion has evolved, and the Democrats say it wasn't there from the beginning, which is, look, I just answered the question truthfully. This was a vote I took 6 years ago, and no one's ever talked to me about it since. Now that I'm running for mayor, they asked me about it, and I said, look, the truth is that my opinion has evolved, and it's not that it's evolved so much as at the time there were questions about whether there were going to be unintended consequences with opening up lawsuits for religious institutions, which also have to have their rights protected. So my answer is simple. I've been to weddings of two of my friends. I see the love they have for one another. I support it now. If I could vote today, it would be a different vote. At the time, again, there was a question of unintended consequences of opening up floodgate for lawsuits of religious institutions, and that was the primary reason why I voted against it. But look, I just answered, people ask me my opinion, I give them the answer, and you're not going to make everyone happy all the time, so now I have other people upset with me too, so it's what it is.
Back to the big picture. Biggest difference between you and Mayor de Blasio that you think that the voters should know?
You know what? I'm somebody who actually wants to do the job of being mayor and managing the city. Right now, we have a mayor who's more interested in fighting a national or international ideological war, and as a result, we're seeing all these quality of life issues fall by the wayside. I'm somebody who works hard. I'm someone who has a good work ethic, but also has good moral ethics, and I'm someone who has been at the forefront of bringing transparency to Albany. I was at the forefront of stripping pensions of elected officials who have been convicted of crimes. And this pay-to-play mentality that the mayor has is not serving anyone except for his donors and friends. He ran on a platform of a tale of two cities to lift people out of poverty, and what we see now is that the tale has gotten even worse. It's his friends and donors and the rest of us, and we have to change and make sure that City Hall is once again, government for the people.
On the ideological war you've been fighting, you're probably referring to, fighting Donald Trump's policies. How willing would you be as a Republican to stand up against things that Donald Trump is doing that you think are wrong for New York?
Well, actually, what I'm talking about is that a police officer is assassinated in the city of New York, and our mayor, instead of being here mourning with the city and the police department, is on the next flight to Germany to protest our nation. That is what I'm referring to. However, with Donald Trump, it's simple. It's the same, the way I feel about the governor and the way I feel about any other elected official. If I agree with you, I will support you. If I disagree with you, I won't. So far, I've not agreed with the mayor on a number of policies. The handling of DACA is the most recent. But I think that, that's the way that a mayor should be. They should be diplomatic. They shouldn't be looking to fight national ideological wars. I'm not looking to do that. I'm looking to manage the city, making sure that my trains are flowing, that the traffic is moving, that children are getting a good education, that the homeless are being cared for. That is what I'm looking to do. So if he wants to run for president, then run for president. But I'm looking to be manager of the city of New York, because right now we have someone that has an I don't care attitude about the problems that we're facing.
Assemblymember Nicole Malliotakis, Republican candidate for mayor, who you'll be hearing much more about as we head into the general election campaign. Democratic primary next Tuesday. Of course, no Republican primary because Assemblymember Malliotakis is unopposed. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you. Pleasure. Thank you.
Appreciate it.